She went to sleep and never woke up. A college student. A safe neighborhood. A warm blanket. A quiet January night. And then silence. This is the chilling story of Brianna Denison. How a fun night with friends became one of Nevada's most haunting murder cases. And how one small trace of DNA on a couch cushion cracked it wide open. Stay with us as we walk you minute by minute through the Brianna Denison murder case timeline. Because what happened to her could happen to anyone. January 19th, 2008. It was a quiet, snow-covered night in Reno, Nevada. Just another Saturday evening in a college town winding down from winter break. But for 19-year-old Brianna Denison, that night would mark the end of everything she knew, and the beginning of a mystery that would shake a city. Brianna was home from college, visiting from Santa Barbara City College in California, bright-eyed, full of life. She'd been back just a few days and was already reconnecting with old friends from high school. She was the kind of girl who made you feel seen. Her family described her as generous, confident, and incredibly intelligent. She wanted to study psychology to help people understand the minds of others. Ironically, no one would be able to understand what happened to her. That night, Brianna and her friends headed out to a club called The Jungle. It was just a 10-minute ride from her friend's house, where she'd be staying the night. They danced, took a few selfies, shared drinks, nothing out of the ordinary. No red flags, no strange men, no arguments, no following cars. By 3:45 a.m., they arrived back at the friend's house located on McKay Court, just 1 block from the University of Nevada, Reno campus. Brianna settled in. She texted a friend goodnight. The last text ever sent from her phone came at 4:23 a.m. And then nothing. The door was locked. There was no sign of a break-in. No shattered glass. No knocked over furniture. No screams were heard. No one saw anything. It was as if Brianna had simply vanished into the freezing morning air. By sunrise on January 20th, 2008, just hours after Brianna Denison was last seen, her name was already on the police radio. Detectives from Reno PD gathered at 6:15 a.m. The briefing was short, tense. A 19-year-old girl had disappeared. No signs of struggle, no forced entry, no clear suspect, and no one saw her leave. It was, in every way, a mystery. News spread quickly. But in 12 hours, Brianna's disappearance was headline news across Nevada. Flyers were printed and distributed across UNR and downtown Reno. Police started reviewing other complaints near the UNR campus. There had been similar reports, someone watching women, entering unlocked houses. This wasn't random. Brianna's face appeared on lampposts, Facebook pages, restaurant doors. The public was watching and wondering, how does a girl disappear from inside a locked house? The search effort became one of the largest Reno had ever seen. Volunteers came in waves. Some were students, others were strangers. They searched side streets, back alleys, dumpsters, anywhere someone could be hidden or dumped. Even the nearby railways and parks were canvassed, but ours turned into days, and days brought nothing. For Brianna's family, the waiting was agony. Her mother, Bridget Denison, flew in from California, barely speaking to press, trying to hold herself together. Her mother told press that she is not a runaway. She had plans. She had her phone, her bag. She had no reason to leave. Somebody took her. That week, a vigil was held outside the campus library. Over 300 people gathered praying, crying, chanting Brianna's name. Detectives canvassed the entire neighborhood. Door-to-door interviews, every neighbor, every suspicious vehicle, every registered sex offender in a 2-mile radius. According to police investigators, this wasn't just a missing person. It had the markings of a predator. 4 days in, with still no leads, the FBI officially joined the investigation. Special agents with experience in abductions and serial predators flew in from California. Their expertise would soon prove crucial, and then a breakthrough. One nobody expected, one that would change the course of the case. January 24th, 2008. 5 days after Brianna Denison vanished. Inside the sterile walls of a Washoe County forensics lab, a discovery was made, one that would not only shift the investigation, but expose a devastating truth the city was never ready for. The couch Brianna had laid on was standard, beige, worn. It sat in the front living room of her friend's home where Brianna was last seen, wrapped in a blue blanket. The team carefully extracted the stain and ran it through the standard sexual assault panel seeking epithelial cells, semen, or contact DNA. And it wasn't just recent. This wasn't a new stain from someone in the house. The sample was cross-checked through the FBI's CODIS system, the combined DNA index system used to identify repeat offenders nationwide. And there it was. It's a match, not to Brianna, not to her friend, but to a previous case chillingly close to home. The DNA belonged to the man who had sexually assaulted a woman just 6 months earlier in a parking garage less than 2 miles from where Brianna was taken. It was on a rape kit that never got solved. Same method, same aggression, same type of victim. The 2007 case had been chilling enough. A 22-year-old woman walking to her car at 2 a.m., grabbed from behind, choked, sexually assaulted in the back seat of her own vehicle. Back then, police had collected DNA, but never had a name. No match, no arrest, no leads. Now that DNA was on Brianna's couch, in the very house she disappeared from. Suddenly, this wasn't just a missing persons case. This was the hunt for a serial predator. And then, a third incident surfaced. It's unreported until now. A woman had come forward claiming she too was attacked but had never filed a report. Why? Because she blamed herself. She was walking home late. He dragged her into a gravel lot. She didn't tell anyone. He was drunk. She didn't think they'd believe her. Now, with DNA in hand, detectives reviewed unsolved sexual assault cases from the past year. Patterns began emerging. All young women. All near Uner late at night, silent attacker. Same trauma signatures. Strangulation marks. Similar entry points. Same behavioral control. This was not impulsive. This was organized predatory behavior. The man we were looking for had done this before, and he would do it again. As public pressure mounted, the Reno Police Department went public with their DNA discovery. They asked for tips. They warned the community. Police believe this man is responsible for multiple assaults. They urge anyone who may have seen or experienced something to come forward. Even if you think it's nothing, call them. At the University of Nevada, students packed into auditoriums, demanding answers. Mothers demanded curfews. Local hardware stores saw pepper spray sell out within 24 hours. Campus police increased patrols, deployed emergency call boxes, and recommended students travel in groups. But fear was spreading faster than anything we could contain. Back in the lab, the DNA team was still chasing one major piece: a name. They had the genetic fingerprint. Now they needed the man behind it. Forensic entered the DNA into every database they had. State, federal, military. Still, nothing. Whoever this man was, he had never been caught before. For her family, this discovery was bittersweet. Proof she hadn't run away, but no closer to finding her. The search intensified. The DNA revelation had turned a missing girl into a hunted monster, but time was running out. The longer she stayed missing, the less likely she'd be found alive. And then, just when hope was starting to fade, a clue, quiet tip, and a name the city of Reno would never forget. As January turned to February in 2008, the entire city of Reno was holding its breath. The DNA found on the couch where Brianna Denison disappeared had sparked panic and pointed to a chilling possibility. Serial predator was on the loose. Reno police, along with the FBI, publicly confirmed that the DNA matched a previous sexual assault and likely linked to more. Police believe this individual may have committed at least 3 separate attacks on young women in the city. Each marked an incident, each a survivor. He had the pattern. He hunted at night, near student housing. He didn't talk. He used condoms, leaving no DNA behind, except in Brianna's case. And that was his mistake. Survivors described the same man, tall, muscular, masked, armed with a small handgun. He broke in silently, attacking while his victims slept or walked alone. Reno was now a city on edge. Police increased patrols. Helicopters scanned neighborhoods. Flyers with the composite sketch plastered storefronts, laundromats, even gas stations. But there was no name, no suspect. And then a break. Not from a detective, not from a crime lab, but from a woman. An anonymous call came in. The woman had seen the sketch. It looked just like her boyfriend, James Biela, according to the woman. Got really weird after January. Kept saying the cops were watching him. One night she found him crying, said he'd done something terrible. Investigators listened. The woman's name has never been released. But she gave police something invaluable, the name of a suspect. James Michael Biela, 27 years old, former U.S. Marine. A trained combat specialist, tall, muscular, lived in Reno. Worked as a pipe fitter, drove a Toyota truck, and had a criminal past, domestic violence reports, and suspicious behavior. But there was a problem. Police didn't yet have Biela's DNA on file. He wasn't in CODIS. He hadn't been arrested for a felony, and he wasn't talking. That's when they turned to science and to his family. Police obtained a voluntary DNA sample from Biela's 4-year-old son. Under Nevada law, that's admissible for investigative comparison, and what they got changed everything. The boy's DNA partially matched the DNA from Brianna's case, enough to confirm one thing. The child's father, James Biela, was the source. Investigators had found their man, the same man who took his son to school, held hands with a girlfriend, was now the prime suspect in one of Nevada's most horrific crimes. He fit the predator profile in every way. He was confident, well-trained, and compartmentalized. Family man by day, sexual predator by night. Police placed Biela under surveillance. November 25, 2008. For days, investigators tailed his every move. He was under constant watch. But James didn't know that the net was already closing in. Just after 6:30 p.m., officers swarmed Biela as he left a Reno gas station. He was calm. No struggle, no surprise. Back at the station, detectives were prepared. This wasn't just about asking questions. This was about closing the case. Inside interrogation room 3, they sat face-to-face with the man they believed had abducted, raped, and murdered Brianna Denison. But James Biela said nothing. No emotion, no anger, no denial, just silence. Not even when detectives laid out photos of Brianna, of her family, of the places he had violated. It was irrefutable. Biela's DNA matched the evidence found not only on Brianna Denison's body, but also from 2 earlier attacks. 3 separate crimes, 1 single match. On November 27th, just 2 days after his arrest, detectives got a tip. A construction worker reported something unusual off a rarely traveled road near the Stead area, an industrial lot surrounded by machinery, dumpsters, and shipping containers. There was this patch of dirt looked like it had been disturbed. The smell was awful. Partially buried, covered with brush and debris, was the body of 19-year-old Brianna Denison. Autopsy reports confirmed the unthinkable. Brianna had been sexually assaulted, strangled, and her body discarded like garbage. The community mourned. Candles flickered across Nevada. Her face, once seen smiling from missing posters, was now framed in black ribbon. Meanwhile, James Biela remained silent. No press statement, no plea deal. He declined to testify in his defense and showed no signs of remorse, though he never confessed with words. Every piece of evidence painted a confession louder than any courtroom monologue could offer. During the pre-trial hearings, Biela never looked at Brianna's mother, never spoke, never apologized, only sat still as the horror of his crimes was detailed one by one. The prosecution moved quickly. The evidence, DNA, timeline, victim testimony was overwhelming. It was clear Biela wasn't just a suspect. He was the killer. And though he never confessed, everyone knew. Every mother, every sister, every survivor, they all knew. In the spring of 2010, Reno prepared for a reckoning. The trial of James Michael Biela was about to begin. It had taken nearly 2 years to reach this moment. 2 years of grief, outrage, and desperate hope for justice. The court was packed on opening day. Reporters from every major network filled the gallery. Brianna's family sat in the front row, quiet, solemn, their pain etched into every line of their faces. The prosecution came prepared. They had a timeline precise and airtight. They had DNA found on Brianna, on the condom, on the couch. They had victim testimony from the 2 other women Biela had assaulted. Prosecutor gave opening statement. James Biela hunted these women. He planned, stalked, and acted without mercy. This was no accident, no loss of control. This was execution. The jurors saw it all. They heard about Brianna's final night, her final moments, how she was taken, how she was assaulted, how she was left buried and alone. Then came the hardest testimony from Brianna's family. Her mother, Bridget, spoke about the girl she raised bright, artistic, fearless. She wept as she described the phone calls that went unanswered, the night Brianna didn't come home. No one in that courtroom could escape the emotional weight of the trial. The silence at times was deafening. Meanwhile, James Biela said nothing. He showed no remorse, no emotion. He never testified, never looked at the Denison family. He simply stared forward, impassive, unmoved. People watched him expecting something, but he was just a stone, cold. Like the monster the community believed he was. Forensic experts broke down the science. It's the chances that someone other than Biela had left that DNA. Less than 1 in 10 billion. Wasn't just probable. It was irrefutable. Forensic expert recorded his statement in court. That it was not just a match. It was a direct connection. They found his DNA in 3 separate sexual assaults, and one of them was fatal. The pattern was horrifying and clear. This was no isolated case. This was a serial predator, one who slipped through the cracks. Biela's defense offered an alternative story. They said he was overwhelmed, that his past, including time in the Marines, may have impacted his mental health, that there was no clear proof he intended to kill Brianna. Defense attorney gave the argument in court, but for the jury, the defense fell flat. There was no explanation strong enough, no reason good enough. The evidence was too overwhelming, the pain too raw. After 2 weeks of gut-wrenching testimony, the jury was dismissed for deliberation. They returned less than 8 hours later, on June 10, 2010. The verdict was read aloud. Count 1, first-degree murder, guilty. Count 2, kidnapping, guilty. Count 3, sexual assault, guilty. The courtroom erupted in silent sobs. Bridget cried. The prosecutors exhaled. The jurors nodded. Then came sentencing. Would Biela receive life without parole or death? It was Nevada's harshest punishment reserved for its most brutal criminals. And the courtroom stood behind it. The verdict and sentence marked a turning point for Reno, for Brianna's family, and for the justice system. Brianna Denison's life was brief but powerful. Though she went to sleep in her friend's home that winter night and never woke up, her memory never faded. In fact, it became a force for change. What began as grief transformed into momentum. Her family, friends, and community refused to let her story end in darkness. Brianna was more than a college student. She was a daughter, a sister, a friend, a light in the lives of those around her. She loved music, yoga, journaling, and laughing late into the night with friends. But to know her was to be drawn to her warmth. In the weeks after her murder, a community stood still. But then, something remarkable happened. Her loss galvanized a movement. Students demanded better lighting, better patrol, better tools for safety. Brianna's death had exposed cracks in campus security across the country, and change followed. The University of Nevada, Reno introduced a series of sweeping reforms. Escort programs that operated until 3 a.m. Emergency phones placed strategically around campus, mandatory dorm keycard policies, personal safety workshops attended by hundreds of students each semester. Perhaps most notably, the BreSafe app was launched in 2011, allowing students to alert friends, call campus police instantly, and leave a time-stamped trace of their walk home. The app, inspired by Brianna's memory, has since expanded to over 40 campuses across the U.S. But her legacy extended far beyond Nevada. Across America, universities re-examined their safety infrastructure. Parents asked more questions. Legislators started to listen. The Brianna Denison Campus Safety Act was proposed in her honor, a bipartisan push to improve emergency alert systems on college campuses. Though the bill faced hurdles, it raised awareness on a national level. Bridget Denison made it her life's mission to make sure her daughter was never forgotten. She became a voice not of vengeance, but of purpose. Every year, on the anniversary of Brianna's disappearance, students gather to remember. They speak her name. They tell her story. They pass the flame to new students, so her light never fades. Brianna Denison went to sleep on a winter night in Reno and never woke up. But her legacy awakened a nation. Her story shattered silence. And though taken too soon, she left the world better than she found it. Subscribe to the Crime Decoder for more true stories that challenge what we think we know and expose what's truly terrifying beneath the surface. Hit the bell. Stay informed. Stay alert.